Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's xLights Gems series presentation. We have Michael Stoffrigen from Showstopper Sequences giving us a presentation on mapping insights. With that, I'll turn it over to you, Michael. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Hopefully now everybody can kind of see my xLights setup. I added in some props that I'm going to show you a little bit. Mapping is pretty, pervasive. What I mean by that, there's a large number of people that, build great things and do beautiful controller builds, but they'd rather just spend their time doing that rather than sequencing. And as a result, there's a whole lot of mapping that goes on. One of the things that I've encountered in trying to help the people that use our sequences is, the big question is, what do I do when I have a prop that just doesn't want to play nice with what you have? How can I map it? So I'm going to offer up some solutions on that, and hopefully that'll be beneficial for you. All right, so let me start first with just talking about things you need to do to be ready to map. All right. For example, one of the things that I think is really important is familiarizing yourself with the source sequence. There's a couple of ways to do it. As mentioned earlier, you can double click on the xsqueeze file. That is the new file, zip file extension. I don't use that. I just use zip files because I like to go in there and edit some of the stuff that's in there, so people get everything in one file download. But one of the things you can do is just download the sequence, double click on that, and you're going to be able to see everything that is in the source sequences layout. In other words, for me, you're going to get our store layout, everything right there, and you can switch between the layout and then the sequencer and try to see what's going on. Now, one of the things that I do is I include a diagram in the download. Let me see if I can make this work with Zoom. Is that something you can see now, where it says Showstopper Sequences and it has the
We
layout?
just we just see your xLights with the
Okay. I'm
top
going to
10
stop sharing.
props.
I'm going to share something new.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to stop that share.
If you share your entire one, you can drag back and forth.
Okay. So share.
Then the top left option is your whole entire desktop. Then you can go back and forth as needed.
Okay. So I'm going to share that then. There we go. Okay. Can you see our Showstopper layout?
Yes.
Okay. That's a PDF that's included in every zip file. Main reason I do that is so that, before you actually sit down and start to map, you can kind of get an idea of what props you are looking at when you're watching the sequence itself. Now, other sequencers, I'm sure, have something similar, but if they don't, all right, let me show you a great little trick that you can do. All right, so let me get out of this. One of the things that you can do is change your directory to a directory where you have unzipped the source file. And I'm just going to run through it and go up to where I do all my sequencing. I'm going to select that folder. Okay, and then I'm going to go to Tools in the upper left-hand corner, and I'm going to export the models. And this time I'm just going to export it to my desktop. Give it a name that won't conflict with anything. Okay, and I've just saved it. And I'm going to open it up. I don't use Excel, but I use Quattro Pro. Came with my word processor, so that's what I use. Works the same. All right, so if you go to the source sequence and you export the models, all right, you will see every model listed there. In mine, I try to put a description in terms of where the source of each of those props came from, as long as it's not like a native prop or something like that. But there are also tabs that will show you the groups that you have, and you might have to expand that. But you can see the groups, and you can see the models that are in those groups. And all that's there is basically to help you get a better feel for what you're looking at. So if the source sequence doesn't come with a diagram, you have some things here. Now, the limitation, and this is one of the issues I have run into when I create a mapping worksheet, is that everything that gets put out here, all right, it's all the groups, and then the models are on another page. Another tab, I should say, in the spreadsheet. So just be aware of that you're not looking at the entire package of what you're getting. It's split across two separate spreadsheets. But again, it's just a way that you can help familiarize yourself with the source material. And the reason why that's important is you're going to need to know where things go. Now, I am going to show you some basic tools, some things you can do to get ready. Exit out of that. Get back to my xLights. Oops, I need to change back to where I was before. All right, before you do anything, one of the things you're going to need to do is make sure that you have your groups set up the way you want. What's real nice, there's a couple of ways to do it. All right, you know, you could group things by just doing that and then right-clicking, and you can create a group from that. It allows you to go in and do that without any issue. You just grab what you want and you make a group out of it. I want to talk to you a little bit about submodeling. This is where I think people are the weakest in prepping. Okay, so I'm at the Layout tab. I have selected the Boscoyo ChromaFlake 24 3-prong. I don't know if you've ever used one of these. These were one of the first snowflakes I had in my display. They've been kind of retired now, but I still have them. I think they're really nice little 48 pixel props, and you know, 24 inches. You get a lot of bang for your buck on that one. Okay, so what I'm going to do. Let me drag this up just a little bit. Maybe it'll let me. I'm going to go into the submodels on that prop. Okay, if you go into it, I just downloaded these from Boscoyo. There are no submodels in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a submodel. Down in the lower left-hand corner, you'll see add, delete, copy, action, import, export. Okay, I'm going to add one. And you'll see over here on the right-hand side in the black area, all the pixels basically showed up. Okay, so I'm going to add tips as a submodel. And I'm going to go and I'm going to grab these 4 pixels right there. Go back off to the left. I'm going to name it tips, hit the tab. Now I'm going to come over to where it says 19 through 22. That's the pixel count. There's 4 there. I'm going to right click and I'm going to come down to symmetrize. And I'm going to tell it 6 because there are 6 prongs in that snowflake. Squarify aspect ratio, select yes. Okay, encountered some error logs, 19, 20, 21, and 22. Okay, so it's not going to let us symmetrize it. But what we can do is we can come in, we can add a row, grab the next ones, add a row, grab the tips there, add a row, grab the tips there. Okay, you noticed I got an extra pixel here. I'm going to hold down the shift key and go back over that pixel, and it takes it out. Okay, so just by left clicking, dragging across the pixels, I've added them. I made a mistake here by not adding rows. So I am just going to fix that. So we got 1, 2, 3. Our next one is here. Okay, so now I've created one called tips, and we've got it broken out that way. I'm going to hit add, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the pixels in the center. See if I picked up any extras. No, it looks like we're good there. So I am just going to call that center. I think center star is what I referred to it in my layout. Now, the naming of these things, you know, there's nothing magic about it. Just so you understand what they are. Okay, so I'm going to add another one. And this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab each one of these arms. Okay. And since I know it's not going to let me symmetrize the way I'd like to, I mean, I can try again. Nope, don't think it's going to do it. You can always tell by the delay. All right, so I'm going to add a row, grab the next arm, add a row, grab the next arm, add a row, okay, so now I have created the arms in the submodel. Next thing I'm going to add in there is spokes. And each spoke is like that. There's going to be a slight gap in a couple of them, but this is a much older model. And one of the reasons why it won't let me symmetrize the way it should is when the algorithm goes and looks for pixels in a certain position, if the original model was imprecise in pixel location, it will not allow you to symmetrize it. I'll show you with some of the high density props that are a little better constructed how it will let you go in and do that. All right, so I'm going to grab that. You can see there how the pixels are not in line. Remember, this is one of the earlier models in the hobby, so you might encounter that from time to time. Don't want those. We just want that straight line. Okay, just in case I grabbed any of these out of order, I'm going to redo that one. And the reason why I'm redoing it is simply because the order that you select these things matters. And because I want anything that's put on those spokes to go this direction from the center out. Okay, so the order that I selected them in actually makes a difference. Okay, I am now going to add one more on this one called an outline. And I'm just going to select all right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it OK, and I'm going to save it. And then I'm going to go back into the submodels, and I am going to export that to the other models. So I don't have to do all that again. Now you get this warning, are you sure this is going to overwrite what you have? There's no way to undo it. Just tell it yes, it'll be okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the other two viscoil chroma flakes. Tell it OK. Tell it OK. Save it. Now I'm going to check it, make sure I got what I wanted. I'm going to select another snowflake there, go into the submodels, and yep, there they are. We got our tips, our center star, our arms, spokes, and then our outline. Okay, so it's automatically transferred to the other props. All right, so I'm going to hit OK there. We know that's a good one. Now, if you're like most people, you might have different types of snowflakes. And when we get done with this, we want to be able to put these submodels into groups so that we can sequence to them easier. So even though this snowflake looks vastly different than the first one, we can go into the submodels and see what we have and kind of fix it. Now this one's from GE. It's got a few more submodels compared to the other. But let me show you this. This is kind of an aberration. It's something, okay, this says arm 1. Well, it's really a spoke. But if we go and look at the spoke, do you see how it kind of became the arm almost? It has more elements to it. All right, so what I'm going to do on this one is I'm going to left click, and I'm going to come down, hold down the shift key. I'm going to left click again, and you see it grabbed arms 1 through 6. And then I'm going to right click, and I'm going to join them together. And you'll see there that it has created a new submodel. And what I'm going to do with that one, I'm going to just go ahead and call it spokes. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to come over to this spoke. This is going to be my starting point on this one. And I'm going to add in some other pixels to that so that it represents the entire arm. Now there's something that you've got to be aware of here. You know, we're going to have some pixel overlap if you select one whole arm. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the last one open. And I'm going to grab the right side. Now this is a more modern model. So what I'm going to do, name that arms. I'm going to try the symmetrize again. Got 6 arms, so I'm going to drop that down to 6. See, when the model's a little better, you get everything that you want. You'll notice here the node count is correct, 26 nodes in each arm. If you select the arm individually, you can see how it's going to be. We eliminated pixel overlap on that, which helps prevent dropout when you're using a single strand effect on it. All right, so I've got the arms and I've got the spokes done. Let's do the inner circle, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this. And the reason why I'm going to just copy it is because it may change. You know, if you're sequencing from somebody else and they're using just the base model. So I'm just going to copy that and I'm just going to change the name on it to center star. Okay, so we now have, and I'm going to move these to the top, have our arms, we have our spokes, and we have our center star. Okay, next thing we have to do is tips. Now here's what I'll tell you. Tips can be, when you're doing this, it's really kind of your choice how things, what constitutes a tip for you. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select kind of the outer half of that circle or oblong shape here. I'm going to select that, name it tips. I'm going to right click, come down to the symmetrize, reduce it to 6. Okay, again, because we had the better model, it allowed us to symmetrize that. And I'm going to take the tips up and I'm going to put it above the center star. And we're going to add another one, and this is our outline. Okay, the outline on this is going to be a little bit more elaborate, but I'm going to grab here. Come back over again. Okay, by doing just one of the arms and then symmetrizing it, we get the outline. Okay, so we've got our arms, spokes, tips, center star, and outline. All right, so I'm going to hit OK. Save that. Here's another one that looks completely different. If we go into the submodels again, okay, you'll see that we have rings. Okay, I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to name that center stars for consistency. I'm going to pull it up. Look at our spokes here. Okay, these are actually spokes. So I'm going to right click, join it. Okay, now we have spokes. Okay, so now we need to come up with tips. So let's add one. Do that. Right click, symmetrize 6. Okay, it was a little slow, but it did do it. Okay, we've got our tips. And the next thing we need to do is arms. Okay, so for arms, I am going to add a new one. And for these, I am going to okay, I'm not going to select these extras here on the side. They're not going to be part of this submodel. It's just the straight row there. Again, that's kind of a, for lack of a better word, an artistic choice. Okay, now I've got the arms. Arm, spokes, tips, center star, outline. And what I'm going to do with these rings, 1, 2, 3, and 4, I am just going to drag them down to the bottom. All right, so there you've got it. We know we have some of the submodels that we're going to be using. All right, so let's tell that okay for now. All right, so you can see, even though these look very different, you can find similarities, enough similarities to where you can create submodels for even the most simple prop. And what that does is it gives you more flexibility. The way that I look at a submodel, your perspective might be different, but for me, we spend a lot of money on our props. I mean, even these little 48 pixel snowflakes, you've got a little bit of money in them. And the submodels provide us a way to do more with what we have. In other words, it starts adding value because we start to see different patterns in what is there. Okay, there's one that I want to show you that's a little bit unusual, but this will be beneficial, I think, to everyone. If you have any type of vertical matrix, and I've got that highlighted there, and this one is 7 pixels wide by 50 rows high. All right, so we're going to go into the submodels, and we're going to add a submodel, and I'm going to call it stacked rows. Now you can do this also with, if you have arches that are like 3-ring arches or anything. The only rule is that the number of pixels in each vertical column, however you do it, it has to be the same. All right, so I'm going to start this. It'll take me a minute, but all I'm going to do is I'm going to grab each row, add a row. Now, unfortunately, we can't symmetrize this. In other words, it's not a circle. So we can't create symmetry. but we're just going to keep adding rows. And I'm going to show you why you want to do this here in a minute. It's funny, people always ask me, hey, do you ever just let people watch you sequence? It would be the most boring thing you've ever seen. Oops. Getting close. Okay, now this is where it gets kind of interesting. What we're going to do, we're going to come down and we're going to start, we started down here at the bottom. And I'm going to go with every other row and I'm going to highlight it and I'm going to hit reverse. Okay, I'm going to do 4, reverse the row, 6, reverse the row, 8, 10. What I'm doing, and this is why it's a good idea to do this, is I am creating a zigzag pattern for the pixel path on this submodel. Like I said, you can also use this on, arches, and it gives you some good options. Okay, so now we've reversed the rows. I'm going to tell it okay. I'm going to save that. And I'm going to come over here to the sequencer. I'm going to create a new one. I'm just going to create an animation. Okay, and that is our matrix. Double click on there, and you see we get that stacked rows. Put a couple little timing marks here. All right, so what I'm going to do to show you what this will do is I'm going to drop in a marquee effect. And on that marquee effect, we have some things that we can manipulate. I'm going to change the render style to single line. Oh, I'm on the mesmerizer. I want to be down 1 on the matrix and on the stacked rows. Okay, you can start to see, well, we've got a lot going on there, but when you start modifying the skip size, you get different patterns. And if you change the band size as well, you get even more variation by having it use that alternating row pattern. And all you do is you manipulate the band size and the skip size on that. And of course, you can play with the reverse. You can change the speed, based upon your music. And it's just an easy way to take a matrix and make it so much more interesting. And again, you can do the same thing with arches as long as they have the same number of pixels in it. Because if it doesn't have the same number of pixels in each row or each arch, then it won't work the way you think it would. All right, so that's just something I wanted to share with you. Hope you find that useful. Just go in and create that. All right, so those are what I call simple props. And what I'm going to share with you now is the process that I go through when I create submodels for what I call disparate props. That is props that have their own set of submodels, but it's difficult to take something like the Showstopper spinner and say put it on the GE Grand Illusion. So what I'm going to show you is the process I go through. Now, when you are trying to create an analog for a submodel, the reason why I'm using the Showstopper because one, I designed it. I'm very familiar with the submodels and things like that. But you can use any prop you like as your source. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for 3 different properties of a submodel. All right, let me go over here to the sequencer. I'm going to take that out. I'm just going to delete the marquee that I previously put in. I'm going to shrink down that. And I'm going to go to the Showstopper spinner. And I'm going to start with the first one here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take single line effect.
Michael, while you're setting it up, I put those links in chat for everybody.
Oh, awesome. Great, great. Okay, so you'll see that what I've done, what we've got right here is we've got everything on default. And to make sure that you don't have what I call dropout, we're going to group the strands. Okay, that looks very different when I group the strands. Okay, now it's 1 chase. Pixel size is 10. Okay, so the shape that we're looking for a straight line, and then it's going to break off into curves, with each curve going left and right. And if you'll notice, it goes across the entire prop. So the 3 things we're looking for: the shape, the movement, and the position on the prop itself. All right, so how would we do that? Going back to our layout, this is the GE Grand Illusion. And I'm going to go into the submodels. And I'm going to add one. It's me 01 cascading arches. Hit tab. All right, so let's come up here and start picking our pixels. Okay, we got that center. Okay, when I get up here to the top, what we're going to do is we're going to carve that out a little bit. I go left, right when I'm making mine. Left, right. I'm going to start the curve. Left, right. Okay, that one should be there. Okay, so over and down 2. All right, so that's an analog. It's fairly close. Because the pixels are laid out differently, it's never going to be exact. All right, so what I'm going to do now is, since I've got that, I'm going to symmetrize it. And this one, and you'll just have to experiment with this, because if you select, what the goal is, you want the largest number that you can use that's less than 20. Now, the reason why I say less than 20 is because the single line effect, the maximum number of chases you can have is 20. So if you pick, if you create a submodel that has more than 20, you've made it where you can't effectively use the single line without creating a shadow model or something like that. I know from experience that we've got 50 spokes of 15 each, I think is what it is. And 50 is divided by 10 evenly. So I'm going to tell it OK. All right. And so now what it's done is it has created the cascading arch submodel. So I'm going to tell it OK. We're going to save it. I'm going to go back to the sequencer and check it. Okay, I'm just going to, we know what that one does, so I'm just going to, cut it. Okay, we have the submodel, the cascading arches. And typically what I'll do is I will go through every one of the Showstopper submodels and try to approximate what is there, so that if you buy one of my sequences and I don't have the Grand Illusion done, you can grab these models and add them to what you already have and then utilize them. Now, in the chat, there is a link to GE props that I have done with the Showstopper submodels. It's on the Google Drive. So if you're interested in these things, I did post the link in the official xLights Facebook group. I've posted it in Showstopper Insights, and it's also posted in the chat here. So take a moment, go over and grab those if you have some of the GE props. I've done the Fusion, the Dazzler, the Rosa Grande, the Mother of All Wreaths, and a couple of others that I've done that I can't recall off the top of my head. But all those submodels are there, and all you have to do is go and import them from the file and just add them to what you already have. And then you can use anything that's on the Showstopper spinner for that. And I always encourage you too is, be creative. If you make something of your own that you like, just go ahead and include it. I mean, it's your prop, your show, do what you think is best to get that. All right, so with that, I'm going to stop for a second, answer any questions to what we've covered so far, and see if anybody has any questions or thoughts they'd like to share.
Any questions on submodels? Nobody?
Okay, great. Super easy, right?
Yep.
Just takes time, and we all have lots of that, right? Okay, so it was kind of funny. There was a post in the Showstopper Insights, and I was trying to get a better handle in my mind how the developers look at the interplay between mapping and render order. And the truth of the matter is, and when they said it, I'm like, okay, I understand now. They view it as two absolutely 100% kind of different things, although they are somewhat related. The biggest issue I have with people is their render order. Okay. Now, why is that? Well, it's a difficult concept to get your head around. It can be simplified. Okay, I'm going to stop my sharing for just a second so I can talk about the way that I look at your master file and setting that up. Okay, this is my mouse pad. Pretend that's your yard. This is my glasses case. Okay, my glasses case there. That's my house. Okay, and my keys here. If you can see them, got keys up here somewhere. Yeah, there we go. The keys are some other props. Okay, so your audience is going to be looking this way, and your house is going to be the backdrop. All right, so if you were looking at your master file, what you want is the largest groups at the top, okay, followed by your largest groups that don't cover everything, and then follow that by your individual prop groups, and then your individual props. And that's the general order. And then underneath everything, you put your DMX stuff like your moving heads and things like that. All right, so to understand how the master file works, if you took everything and rotated it vertically, okay, that's kind of what will be your render order. In other words, your master file needs to follow that general pattern. And as I said, people, usually don't do that. And they'll call me and they'll say, well, I've got everything mapped, but my mini trees aren't doing anything. All it shows is snowflakes. Well, the reason why it shows only snowflakes is because they have their mini tree group up above their everything group. And the way that, xLights is going to display these things, without getting into the technical aspects of it, but what's on the bottom is going to trump what's on the top. Easy way to think of it. Now, every sequencer or every source, whether it's Google Drive or you're sharing it from a friend or whatever, every sequence that you get is going to have its own master file. Okay, so what that means is when you create a sequence and are going to use a specific source, you're best served if you create a master file that is identical to the source sequence. All right, so let me share again, and then we're going to okay, we're back up to my entire screen. All right, so I'm going to show you a shorthand way to duplicate your source materials, the source sequence render order. All right, so I'm going to right click, and one of the options here is to import previews, models, and groups. That's what that says, import previews, models, and groups. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to browse over and grab my xLights RGB effects file. All right, so what you'll want to do with any source sequence, unzip it into its own directory. Remember, when you actually map, you're going to map from the zip file, right? So what you want to do is you want to unzip it in its own directory. You want to go through there and grab the RGB effects file. And when I hit open, I get this list of all the groups and props that are in that source RGB effects. What we want to import is we want to import the groups, but not the props. All right, so I'm just going to scroll down here, and all those are groups, and I'm going to just grab them. And the shorthand way to do this, okay, we see here we've got okay, I'm going to hold down the shift key, and I'm going to click here. And then I'm going to tell it to select the highlighted. Okay, that way I don't have to go in and grab all those. I'm going to skip over these grand illusions. I'm going to bring in a couple of more groups of mine. And now what we want to do is we want to, down at the bottom, tell it to include empty model groups. All right, you'll notice over here on the left-hand side, we have just imported all of my groups. My groups are unique because I do number them. And the neat thing is the numbering is also my render order. So if you import that, the next thing you've got to do is just propagate what's there. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to drag across all these props. I'm going to right click, and now I can add those to existing groups. So I'm going to add it to my everything group, FPG groups, everything here, and then I'm going to add it to the ones that are at the very bottom. These ones at the very bottom that have everything, they actually trump stuff. All right, so I'm going to add that there. I can take these and I'm going to add those to an existing group, add to existing groups. Again, I'm going to add them to everything. Can't forget the snowflakes because that's what they are. Okay, now I've added it, added that to the snowflakes. All right, so that's how you populate those with your props. Now I'm not going to do these individual props yet. They're going to be handled a little bit differently. All right, but we've got some submodels that we want to actually put into groups here with the snowflakes. All right, so I'm going to click on the snowflake arms. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to unclick the groups because I'm not interested in adding groups to this. And I'm just going to type arms. Okay, and I'm just going to use the plural arms. Okay, so you can see there what we've done is we've now populated this snowflake arms subgroup with the arms that we created when we did our submodels. Same thing with the center stars. I'm just going to filter it. Okay, remember I'm leaving all the high def stuff out because it's generally handled a little differently. So I'm going to add those in. And again, you can see we've got our props. I'm going to save that. Let's go back to tips. Spokes. Now outlines. Okay, so we're going to do just the flakes. All right, so to kind of summarize that, what you do is you populate the groups by selecting the entire props and adding them to a group by right-clicking on it after you select them. But you populate the submodels on the left-hand side by pulling those submodels out from there. Now, I tried this, to see if this would work, and it might be something to add. I don't know if Daryl's still in here, but this would be a cool thing to add. You can, okay, for example, you can break out. Let me go to the snowflakes themselves. All right, so let's say we got a snowflake here, okay, and a snowflake here. If I grab it here, hold down the control key, command key if you're on Windows, and I select both of them, and then I right click, I can create a group, but I can't add it to an existing. So that's why you've got to go through that process of selecting it.
Right there, Michael.
Yes.
Add selection to existing.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah. I missed it. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Well, because I was looking for add to existing groups.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's another way that you can do it. For example, if you got those tips, you could go in and add it that way. It's great that it is available because that was going to be my suggestion is to add that. Now it's done.
He's that good. He did it already.
Yeah, he did it already. All right, so that gives you some idea of how to populate the groups. One of the things you can't do, though, you can't come over here and highlight a submodel. You're going to get the whole model. So you would just pull it from the submodel list over here and create it that way. All right, so that might be a little quicker for you to do that. All right, so
We do have a quick question about that.
yes.
Someone said, shouldn't the submodel group be after the individual models in the render order? That way, effects on
No,
the
well,
submodel groups override effects on the whole model, but not in the group.
okay, here's how I look at it. Now it's how it really is, it's how you want to do it. But let me go, for example, um, let me go this one here. Okay, so I've got tips, center star, arms. Yeah, that's a bad example. Let me grab one that already has those in there. No, we're not changing that. All right, let me grab this one, and we go to the submodels on that one. Okay, so I've taken these and arms, spokes, tips, center star, and outline. And you can see here we've got these individual spokes. Now, if you are going to sequence, if you put something on the spoke and then you put something on the arm, right? What's going to happen is whatever's on that spoke is going to override what's on that arm if, hang on a second, let me show you. You got to go up here to File and Sequence Settings. Okay, you see that Allow Blending Between Models? That needs to be checked. If you do that, then what happens is you can put something on, for example, the tips or the whole model. For example, you can put a pinwheel on this or a fan effect and have it rotating. And then you can come down and put something on an individual spoke. And whatever is below it will trump what's above it. In other words, it's just like your render order. Now, the mechanism is completely different. What I mean by that is the way that it's accomplished is different than the way it is with the master file. But for simplicity's sakes, just remember what's on the bottom trumps what's above it. So I always put the smaller, more detailed submodels below the bigger ones. So you can put something on the big one and then put others, put things on the other submodels, and you get both of them instead of one overriding the other. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
I guess so.
Okay.
The
All
other
right.
question says you can use a source sequence to determine what submodels you created on existing props. Is that accurate?
Yes,
This goes
and
back to
as a
about your
shorthand
cascading
way of
arches. I missed it.
yeah, as a shorthand way of doing it, I just import them all. Now you can go back if that bothers you and delete some of them, for example, and it's just a simple matter of right clicking and then delete. But until you make the decision on how to populate these groups that you just imported, until you make the decision how to populate what you're going to put in it, you don't really want to have to go back in and grab a different submodel. The other thing I'll show you is that when you get done populating all the groups and everything, if it doesn't have that little greater than symbol next to it, it's an empty group. And you got to ask yourself, okay, do I think I'm going to need this? And if the answer is no, for example, I don't have, I don't have the Showstopper arches, delete them. And all you got to do is click the first one, go down to the last submodel, right click, and you can delete them. No problem. Okay, so it's just a decision you make. But yes, you are using the source as a kind of way to figure out how you want to populate those groups.
So if I understand correctly, what you're suggesting is when I buy sequences from, multiple people, I should go and check each sequencer's, models and try to simulate as many submodels as possible on my layout. So importing then becomes way easier, from each of them, right?
Correct. Correct. And like the submodels for like on the high density props, the submodels are just like every time you put together a submodel, it's like creating a new model for you to use. So now this prop, with all these pixels in it that you got 250, $300 in, is, now can look like a couple of hundred different props depending on how you combine the submodels.
That's cool. And you can even set previews or what do you call it?
And
Display
that's the
elements.
next part. That's the next part I
That's
was
the
going to
next
get to.
video, right?
Yeah,
Previews and master views.
right. Okay, so you'll do this from the sequencer. You can do it with just an animation. All right, I'm going to just clean that up. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to create a view for each, for this instance, we're going to do it for Showstopper, but you would create one, for example, if you got PPD, you'd want to create one for them. If you have magical light shows, you'd want to do one from them. If you do, you want to follow what they've done so that when you get through mapping, you're going to have exactly what, as best you can, you're going to have exactly what they have. All right, so I'm going to go ahead, and I wish that there we go. Maybe it will let me do what I need to do. Okay, I'm going to click this here. This is the three golden squares, and what that does is it opens up the display elements. You can also get the same thing by going over here on the left and just scrolling down here and selecting Edit Display Elements. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab everything that we've created and I'm just going to add it to the master. Okay, now I'm going to come to the master view and I'm going to clone it. And I'm going to name this one where it makes sense. Just call it Showstopper. Okay, if you were going to do one for PPD, same thing. You clone it and then do PPD if it's, magical light show, etc. and so forth. Okay, then what I am going to do is, first thing is I'm going to right click. I'm going to tell it to sort by name. Okay, because I number everything, it's automatically going into the correct render order. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out everything scrolling down until I find it. Okay, I'm going to take those out. Okay, a couple of things I'm going to add back. Now, this is my own personal preference, and you, of course, can set up your views the way you want it to be. Sorry, I did that on the wrong one. I needed to do that on the Showstopper. So let me add those back over. If I can drill down to a prop through one of the groups, I don't include that in my view. Now think about that. Because the chroma flake is included in the group snowflakes, if I wanted to sequence that prop, all I'd have to do is go to snowflakes, double click, and it'll be listed right there, and I can sequence that. So to avoid redundancy, typically what I'll do is I will take everything that is in a group and just move it out. The other thing that I do, again, because of render order, I put like the grand illusion, and I'm going to move these moving heads out of the way. We don't want anything affecting those. So they'll be on the bottom by themselves, or any other DMX prop that you have. All right, so what we've done is everything that is an individual prop, and I'm going to have to grab the take this one right here, the Showstopper spinner. It needs to be down with the others. Well, there's an easier way to do it. Okay, so the individual props, like this Grand Illusion 1, this Grand Illusion 2, the Matrix, PPD, all that sort of thing, those are not in groups, and because they're not in groups, I can't get to them, so I'm going to include them at the bottom, but above any DMX prop that I have. So that's just how I organize it. All right, so if you were going to do the same thing, like I said, it just makes it a whole lot easier when you do it that way. All right, so I'm going to X out of that. I'm going to go over to the layout and hit save. Okay, because that relates to that. I'm going to come over to the sequencer. And now we're actually ready to import things. Okay, I'm going to go to import effects. And let me do this. What I'm going to do, show you how we do this. All right, so I'm going to close this. Discard the changes. Okay, I'm going to create a new sequence. We do a musical. Go to my audio files. And let me see here. We'll do Augie Rios. Not that you're going to have to listen to it. We'll do 40 frames per second. Okay, now I'm going to call up my display elements. I'm going to select the Showstopper view that we made, and I'm going to copy it to the master. All right, so if you're doing PPD, you're doing Magical Light Show, whatever, you will select the view that you created for them before you do any importing. All right, so I'm going to X out of that again. And got the Showstopper view, and the master view should be the same now because you copied it over to the master view. Then we go to import. And you always want to import directly from the zip file. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to grab
Michael, while that's going, I'm going to kind of get about 10 minutes.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to, we got our source over here on the right. We've got everything over here on the left. Now we're going to auto map it. All right, you can see there that it has taken over the ones that it had matched, and it left us with the ones that don't have a match over on the left. Okay, I usually scroll through there and make sure I don't have any issues, you know, things that are hanging out there, that sort of stuff. Next step is what I would do is update the aliases with maps, particularly if you have added something over here, you know, where you actually drag and drop it or double click to add it on. And so we're going to update the aliases, tell it OK. Am I sure? Yes, I'm sure. Okay, now I brought over a whole bunch of stuff, even for groups that, you know, really don't have any props in them, because we just did a real quick population of it. But let me just save it. All right, so I guess the point of all this is if you do a little more work on the front end, you're going to save a lot of time on the back end, like a whole bunch of time. Yeah, about the only thing we really have here is probably the snowflakes. And let me get the audio. I don't really need to play it. Okay, it's snowing. That's a good sign. That's on the everything group. And we have some nice, bright, festive colors coming through. Okay. Because of time constraints, I'm going to go ahead now and ask for questions. So I have a chance to answer them for you before we break out.
You can go ahead and unmute your mics and just ask away. You have a question, or type it in chat.
What's the best way to get rid of nodes that overlap on a model?
Okay, so they changed the way that you sequence, and I'll show you real quick here. X out of that. Let me go down to the Showstopper spinner. Okay, I'm going to double click on that. All right, there's a couple of settings that will stop what they call pixel dropout. The way that it generally works is that, you know, because an effect is constantly in motion, it posed a problem with getting everything to show up when it was supposed to. So it was last year sometime, I believe, that the developers came up with a way that we could preserve all the pixels even if there was pixel overlap. And when I'm sequencing, okay, I like to use just single line because it works real well. Okay, let me click on this and I will show you the settings that are pertinent. All right, the effect settings itself. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to come down here, we're going to group all strands, And we're going to set the render style to default. There's one other that may come into play. And let me go ahead and I'm just going to cut this and move it. Okay, I'm going to put this on a, you see one of the ones marked with a V? Okay, so now you get something that looks a little bit like that. Probably you get something that doesn't look like a clear pattern. What you'll do is you'll come up to the transformation and you rotate it. See, now when I rotated it, we lose our pattern. So that means it was okay. All right, so let me reduce that down to 6 chases. And I'm going to reduce the actual prop down. Okay, let me see what else. All right, so that's what you'll do. Now, I'll typically get the timing, and then I will, for example, drop it in on another submodel. That one's going to have a duplicate somewhere. Okay, you see how that one gets that crazy circular thing like that? When you see that, that's when you're going to want to rotate it, and then you'll get the pattern that you should have. Okay, and you get it without any pixel dropout when you group all strands and do the default. Like I said, if it doesn't look good, change. You have to transform, rotate it 90 degrees, and it'll look great for you. Okay. Any other questions?
Nothing in chat. I think we're good there.
All right, awesome.
Hi, Andy. When
Oh,
you were
there we go.
referring to the order that we should have the sequencing in, if you're using projectors in your show, should those be on the top or the bottom?
I would put them, well, okay. If it's a virtual matrix, okay, in other words, you know, you want, when you've got it snowing on the house, you want the snow to go across it. I would put it towards the bottom as an individual prop, but not at the very bottom, I guess is what I want to say. If you look at mine, mine's pretty much towards the bottom because I consider it, and on mine, I do have a virtual matrix on mine. And, you know, I call it, in everything here, I call it the large matrix. Yeah, it's not listed here, but it comes in as a large matrix, and like I said, I use a virtual, but just keep it towards the bottom,
Okay.
you know, and to me it comes out cleaner that way.
Okay. Thank you.
I got one for you. More of a comment, Michael. I've gotten quite a few of your sequences in the last month and a half, and because of my render order to yours, some of the effects aren't showing up, and I understand how yours is different from mine, and you can do that import and change the display from Showstopper or RGB or whatever. And for the most part, just importing on my show and the way that I have it ordered is pretty close to yours. I do have some dropouts as far as some of the effects that goes on certain things, but for the most part, it looks pretty good. So I do appreciate the time that you spent tonight. You went over a lot, and some of it went over my head. I hope it's the same with others, but thank you for what you're doing for the community. Thank you for what you've done tonight, and if there's anything, questions that we might have, how would it be able to get your advice on what we could do to better fit ours to yours and get the effects that you put out?
Well, I think the easiest way is to import those groups and then populate the groups. But if you're not going to do that, what you've got to do is just look at, okay, what is included in, the Showstopper group. And generally, there's large groups that cover like the whole display. Then you have like maybe regional groups, like left side of the house, right side of the house, roof, groups like that. Those could be, those need to be below the big groups. And then you have groups of identical props. And then on those identical props, kind of on a case by case basis, you may have groups for the submodels if you have a lot of the same prop. Then after that, you basically have individual props. And then at the bottom of the individual props, I usually put the DMX stuff. Your moving heads, flamethrowers, bubble machines, whatever you have, snow machines, fog machines, put those towards the bottom, and just, for the most part, treat them separately. But if you get that general idea, you're going to be pretty good when it comes to mapping. What I see a lot of people, though, do is, like I said, they'll have a big group that's below the individual prop. And then, something light like snowflakes or, meteors or whatever's going on is actually overriding the effect that should be on that prop.
Okay. Well, thank you for what you're doing, and let someone else ask.
There is one question in chat says, you said to treat HD props like the SS spinner differently. Can you explain what differently?
Well, what I mean by that is since I don't have multiples of it, I don't put them in groups. I sequence them individually, I guess is the best way. That's what I mean by different. I've seen people, try to take the Showstopper snowflake and put it in with their snowflakes. Will it work? Yeah, but you're missing opportunities with the submodels when you do that.
Right. And what if
really that's it?
And if you have another vendor, it's the same idea, right? That if they have submodels that you don't in your spinner, and you have a lot of submodels, so it probably doesn't happen too often, but you want to emulate or try to match what their groups are that you're importing.
Yeah, especially with their
submodels.
Sequences. Especially with their sequences,
Right.
Yeah, and I always tell everybody, just defer to, the person who created the prop in terms of what their submodels are, include those in there, but then, nothing, it doesn't hurt at all to add more.
Like, I think PPD has a version of the spinner and the snowflake that they offer up that you could import to make it easier for them to map to you.
Right. And that makes complete sense. And I think Ron Howard recently did one with the Showstopper spinner. He added 25 submodels, because nothing like having 95 submodels on a prop. But anyway, he did that as well. And it makes sense because what it does is it makes it easier for people who have that prop to use his sequences, makes it easier for the PPD folks that have, the spinner, snowflake, whatever, to use their sequences. And really that's what it's all about, is trying to make it easier for the end user, because it's already pretty complicated, especially right out the gate. I mean, it does get better with time, but there's a learning curve.
But if I save that imported prop, it saves to my layout, not to the sequence, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you have to, okay, so when you're mapping, all you're doing is you're taking the effect and putting it on the prop.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, like I said, all we ever want is we want groups that we're going to import from somebody else because we've got our own props. And then with the props, what you want to do is import, the submodels. And if it has state effects that are available, you'll import the state effects as well.
But if I have your model that I download from your site, your latest Showstopper Snowflake, for example, and I have that saved, but then I do a PPD sequence and I import their version of the model. When I import it, that's going to override all of your submodels and everything that I had, right?
Override is probably the wrong word because you're actually not sequencing to my submodels when you're going to use their verified models, right?
Right.
And so you'll be sequencing from their sequence to their submodels. They have it set up that way for you. And so, but that doesn't affect the submodels you have listed on the prop.
So I can have both, essentially.
Oh yeah. It poses no problems at all.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Sure.
All right.
All right.
All right,
One other thing that I do want to share with you, it is in the chat. It is a spreadsheet that has been around for quite some time. It is in the Google Sheets, and I'm going to try to call it up right now, and I'm going to share this with you. And this is a great tool because users, people who have been doing the sequencing, let me find where I can share again. Okay, I have lost the ability to share.
You don't see the Zoom toolbar? You might
Yeah,
have to hit more to get to the
yeah,
share.
the toolbar is not popping up.
Hit escape maybe, and if it's
Yeah,
missing,
maybe.
it might got hidden behind your camera.
Well, hey, Andy, can you just go to the chat and call that up so people can see it?
Yeah, I put it up again. I posted it again in the chat.
No. I'm talking about double click it so it pops up for people so they can see it.
I'd have to share for them to see it.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that's what I can't do. So, all right. But trust me, it's there. It's and anyway. What it's got is EFL Designs, Gilbert, Boscoyo, Holiday Decoro, VCS Custom, xLights around the world, and it's got various props. And people have added submodels from that groups that kind of show you what's similar. So you can use that.
That's very cool. Thank you.
Yeah, it's cool.
Anything to make it easier.
Yep, well, we're about an hour and a half there, Michael. I think we'll call it there.
All right, sounds great.
Thanks a lot again. As always, fantastic.
That's awesome. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with everybody. And like I said, if you have questions about it, don't hesitate to reach out. Phone numbers on the website. You can call me, you can text me, you can email me, you can use Messenger. If you use Messenger, the way Facebook works, do us personally. It'll be Diana and Michael Stoffergen, because we get it quicker. Because Showstopper is like a page we manage, and so it's like it takes 2 days for it to show up for whatever reason. But if you do directly to us on Messenger, it comes quicker. So,
and you also have the Showstopper Insights group.
Yes, and there's we post things, and people come with problems, and we try to find solutions, and it's just collaboration, not a sales site, so you won't be inundated with me talking about sales and things like that. It's mostly just hey, let's help each other and make it easier.
Cool. Oh, thanks again, Michael. Another great one.
Thank you. Y'all have a good evening and have a great show this year.
Thanks.